Good morning, everyone. This is Julie McDonald with Microcom Technologies, and I'd like to thank all of you for attending today's webinar with Fanvil. Host Tommy Lee, Vice President of Sales in North America, and he'll be presenting today. If anyone has any questions, please submit them in the question box, and Tommy will be able to answer them at the end of today's presentation. Tommy, good friend, thank you so much for being here. I appreciate you and your time, and we're looking forward to what you have to share. I am finished for now. Please go ahead and take it on over.
Thank you very much for the great introduction, Julie. I have just passed on. For those who are watching, feel free to reach out to Julie for a soft copy of this presentation. I had just sent her the PDF version of this, so there's no need to take down notes. Just give her a call or send her an email. She'll be more than happy to send a soft copy of this preso to use for your future reference. What I want to do today is really just provide you a quick overview of what we have called our two-wire solution. For a lot of people outside, they encounter many different obstacles when you're upgrading a communication system from the old analog into the new IP-based system. And one of the big infrastructures really is that there are many businesses that refuse to go ahead and make the investments to go ahead and upgrade their entire wired network within the building. So we brought out a solution like that. I'm just going to go provide a quick overview of how that solution adds value to those people. Many of the people today have an idea of saying, oh yeah, we could save on the endpoints by putting an ATA at the end. And that ATA, what that does is that still upgrades the wiring, but then it saves on the endpoint cost so that you can just keep your existing analog phone versus using that. And I'll kind of tell you what the pluses and minuses between the two. But before I go ahead and just talk about the two-wire solution, I'm just going to give you a quick overview. My name is Tommy. You can reach me at my email here at the lower left right-hand corner. Feel free to send me any note in case you have any questions, and I'll be more than happy to proceed. So that said, I have a very short agenda. I'm going to spend maybe 1 minute just going over a quick profile, because we realize that many people that watch our videos, for those seasoned veterans, it'll be just a quick hold or something like that. But for many of the people that are new, they go, who is Fanvil? And I'll just provide a quick overview. I'll go over some details on what our two-wire solution does, how it kind of gets put together, coupled with some of the accessories that are available that will make deployment of that very easy moving forward. So given that profile, I'll go ahead and proceed right now. Fanvil, we've been around for quite a long time. I'll talk to you a little bit of that, but we are an actual manufacturer. We're not, a representative or anything like that. We're a basic manufacturer of, as the title says, of audio, video, IoT products. What does that really mean? That means that anything that's related to audio transmissions and video transmissions, we develop the end products that people go ahead and touch, because there are huge software manufacturers that exist out in the field today that provide all the level of switching. But guess what? Ultimately, it has to reach a person, whether yourself or myself. They either touch it on the thing, pick up a phone, or even provide access points. And we really divided the brand name that we have, Fanvil, which is really the parent company of what we work for. But we also introduced a side brand called Linkvil. And what we've decided to do is that Linkvil is going to really focus in on what we call our wireless technology. So we're expanding greatly in our wireless technology solutions that reaches the individual. And we're going to label that Linkvil moving forward, but that's just for your background. The map that you see on the left-hand side, we actually have several manufacturing facilities in China, and as well, we also have a manufacturing facility outside of China as well. As many of the people know in the industry, some people have, have regulations that require manufacturing outside of China. We do have the capability to do that, but that's done on a project-by-project basis. So if you have any questions, feel free to give me a call, and I'll be more than happy to walk you through that. Coupled with that, for Fanvil, although it may be new for you, we're around for 22 years. In fact, many of the products that we've actually put together and designed In the very beginning, we've actually designed many solutions for even competitive brands that we do, but also we've been around and developed our factories and staff. We have about close to 400 people working throughout all of our different regions, including myself being here in North America. We've developed a channel-based company, which means that we work with partners such as Microcom to go ahead and deliver our solutions out into the marketplace. We have whole networks of distributors located throughout, and they actually provide the ability to store products and be able to fulfill local requirements as it is. And back in 2023, last year, we shipped well over 2 million units. So it's not like we're trying to start up and do anything. I mean, we're a full-fledged manufacturer that delivers many endpoints that really deliver what we call IP solutions. And we're really based in Asia, really with pretty top ranking in terms of being in Asia, providing a lot of the different endpoints into the marketplace. Of course, there we have an RMA rate, 2023, it's now less than 1% at 0.36% and heading down. So all of these trends really is something that we like moving forward, and this is just a positive way going forward. What is it that we produce? Now, this is what I call the spectrum of all of our different solutions. It's everything from SIP security endpoints, which deliver video, audio, access points, intercoms, PA systems, as well as phones, and then Linkfil wireless solutions on everything having to do with wireless solutions. And you can manage all of these things with our device management system that we provide free of charge to all of our partners that exist, at least for me, myself here in North America and globally. Here's where the key thing is. One of the things that is common amongst all of the different products that you see here is that all of them require Cat5 or Cat6 cabling within the wall so that you can go ahead and plug in an Ethernet connection, right? And then yet not every building has the resources necessary or the available resources in the short term to say, I want to do that wiring change right now, but they want to adopt the latest IP technology. Well, we've come to a solution of that, and I'll talk a little bit about that more in the next few slides. Some of our differentiators as well, for those who want to do this transition, we also have local tech support. We have a gentleman that's located on East Coast North American time called Hector Zarita. You can kind of contact him here. My best suggestion is just go ahead and reach out to him via email. He's very responsive. He'll go ahead and get back to you. And of course, myself, you can go ahead and reach me via this direct number, as well as any email address to go ahead and get contact with me in case you have more commercial or channel-based type of inquiries. Feel free to do that. We have the resource here to really address you as though we're actually here based in the States. With that said, let's just dive into it and move on. Here's our wiring solution. So let's start at the left-hand column here. On the analog two-wire solution, this is when I kind of grow up, and when you wake up in the house and many outlets that are available in many of the old businesses today, it was really a PSTN line, which really had no, not even a gateway. It was actually a central office that had two different wires that really paired up into your kitchen at your home, or many different default RJ11 offices that are in the cafe. All around your building was it. But it really didn't have the infrastructure to support the IP network. For those companies that did support the IP network, what you ended up doing was somewhere in your company, you could end up putting together a router along with a PoE switch. And what this PoE switch does is that it put together in the yellow line, you had to put together really a Cat5 or Cat6 as described in the key below here. So anything that's in red was basically a two-wire solution. Everything in Cat5, Cat6 is demoted in the yellow cable. So the good news here is that we have solutions, obviously, that connect directly to this, which is what it was made. But you run across an obstacle when you're deploying this out into two-wire and saying, you know what, right now, I want to have all of the Ethernet connections, but just want to keep my two-wire solutions. Do you have that? And the answer is yes. We actually, the combination of solution really does require Ethernet obviously to come into the closet, but from the closet, you can go ahead and use your existing two-wire that's running throughout the walls and throughout your office buildings to deliver Ethernet throughout your existing two-wire, so that basically your two-wire will behave as though it's an Ethernet solution. I ask very often, what is the range of that you can go ahead and transmit this? Assuming all the wires are in great condition, you can do this really up to 300 meters from the point, the switch that converts the Cat5 onto 2-wire, and have 300 meters between there all the way up until the actual endpoints. So that's what it boils down to. And you have obviously different types of lengths that's supported based on what the different networks provide to you. What are the differences? Here are the pieces that we've actually put together. You know, when you look at it, all it requires at a baseline is really one phone or one of these switches. It doesn't require any one of these. In terms of the switches, you have a PN8, which is really sort of a baseline if you just need, like, want to convert 8 ports or 8, you know, different connections up into the different apartments or different offices. But you could also expand to a 24-port switch. I mean, you have to think like an existing PoE where you have a PN24 switch and it will transmit all of these signals onto the endpoints. And right now, we've developed 2 endpoints here, which are phones. Now, here's something very interesting. We've also put together in a PN1 converter. Okay, and what this PN1 does is that it also comes with a loaded power supply that you can power it. Maybe perhaps you want to have a one-off. As you saw in the previous slides, we actually sell things like door access points. We sell intercoms. Those are just one-off devices that require PoE connection on the other end, but then yet you don't want to necessarily buy a PN8 switch. You can have really just a 1 PN1 converter that will convert 1 pair and send it out and provide all the necessary Ethernet connections into the specific IP phone or whatever intercom connection or access point connection through it. So these are all the adapters that you need to really leverage, you know, this 2-wire barrier that is no longer an obstacle. The good news about switching over back into the IP phones is that with this hotel or the H1 2-wire, as well as the H303, which is really a business phone, we've incorporated the actual recipient adapter inside the actual phone so that there is no additional CPE that you have to incorporate in each one of these different things, so that you can basically plug a 2-wire RJ11 jack right into the back of the phone as though that's what it was made for. So the customer premise or the office looks very clean, that has a 1-wire switch connecting directly to the phone. And the good news is that wire is a 2-wire switch that provides to it. Scaling up to a much larger activated wire, you might have something that looks like this, where you actually have the server room. And in the server room, obviously, you might have incoming internet that's going to come to a switch. But once you reach the infrastructure, that switch will end up feeding that Ethernet connection and that power to either a PN8, PN24, 24, or even the PN1 if you want to, okay? That you can have connected there, or you could connect the PN1 directly to one of these ports as well as an auxiliary, so that it gives you room for expansion. And once it goes through these red lines, these 2-wire lines, and it comes into the office area, you can either connect any one of our Cat5 or Cat6 required endpoints, and from the endpoint perspective, it looks as though that it's just connected to a Cat5 and Cat6. There's a huge difference out there because many people like to get around it. Some offices do have an upgrade and do a Cat5, Cat6 on the cabling, but they instead wanted to focus in on making it less economical by putting an ATA adapter, which is like one of these adapters on this end, and use analog phones. Hey, that works, but the drawback between using the ATA phone is that all you're limited to are tone commands that operate under DTMF. With a full Ethernet configuration that's supported by our 2-wire solution, you can now support, you know, call parking, all of the different things that you would expect from a SIP type of atmosphere would be able to support it with our solution. So in essence, we basically convert this wiring into a full Ethernet solution, you know, saving your client and partner particularly from a lot of money moving forward. Here's an example of phones and an example of a PN1 using an i6. Here's another example here that kind of gives you an idea of what you want to do when you want to have like a one-off, right? You can have a router that provides internet connection, but you may just have one connection that you want to hook in an IP endpoint here. And what you can do here is that you can hook in a PN1 that actually has a power input. So in here, there's an actual Ethernet connection where you can pop it in, but as well, there's also a 2-wire connection where you can pop here. And this will actually provide that PoE and wire connection onto this, basically the other PN1 that converts it back into the Cat5 again. And that Cat5 will be able to be dissipated onto this endpoint unit. So, you know, what is the net results? You end up saving a lot of costs for the wiring. Again, there are many places that have wiring as part of your business, which is fantastic. If you want to outfit this whole thing with Cat5, great. But very often you come across with very different requirements, and these are ways that you can pare down to really meet the end customer's budget requirements. And here's a great option that you can offer all of the Cat5 and Cat6 features with indeed, you know, providing wiring, but you would have to compare a switch to pair up with all of the different types of endpoints that you might have on the other side. To be fair, many of these endpoints, you know, there's lots of other competitive solutions that provide similar 2-wire solutions. I want to make sure that these Fanvil switches and PN1s only work with themselves. So they're not made to cross pair with other type of 2-wire solutions. So if you buy a PN1, you know, switch here, you have to match it with really the PN1 type here for really full stable compatibility moving forward. Having said that, I just want to run some of the basic things. Again, just even the business phone wise, the great news is out on the back of the phone, you have an RJ11 interface. Fortunately or unfortunately, I don't believe there's a flow-through wire you can able to connect an RJ11, since you don't necessarily have a connect through, but the RJ11 interface would allow you to connect this phone, and it provides you with a color screen, a lot of SIP lines, and as well, you know, we provide the capability of having desk stand and wall mountable, you know, capabilities of putting this phone on the wall, because in the old buildings, many of these stands do exist with an RJ11 stand that fits on the wall, and you could just mount it right on it, and it'll be just a clean connection putting this phone on that wall. Of course, there's an optional wall mount adapter that you would need to buy. Same thing with the hotel phone. You know, with the hotel phone, very often you have hotel deployments that really use ATAs to save on the endpoints. Again, if you want to take it a step further, you know, this thing is very price competitive as well. I suggest you come in and really provide a quotation and compare an ATA solution versus our 2-wire solution. And with our endpoints here, really this contains the same RJ11 interface, which allows you to just to connect to a 2-wire. But the big difference between an ATA versus an Ethernet solution is that this can support all the different SIP features and go well beyond just the dial tone type of commands that's just limited under an analog solution as well. So again, these is made directly to be connected to the PN8 or PN24 for great, you know, configuration. And obviously with the hospitality, the faceplate itself is really made generic. Looking on this thing, of course, the faceplate is modifiable. You can work with Julie as well as us to modify these faceplates to reflect, you know, whatever hotel brand and whatever configuration these keys have, so that they can go ahead and incorporate these things onto it. And similar to the business phone, these are all desk mountable and wall mounting options that give you the capability of mounting these phones wherever you want to. Speaking a little bit on the converter or the switch side, obviously this is the 1, 8, and 24. I mean, in many cases, you know, you go ahead on the back and really plug in the Ethernet connection on the back. There's also power that also provides power through all of these RJ11 ports here, and also there's PN1 connections. And this basically really is the ability to get over that physical connection, but even on the endpoint, all of this wiring is all automatically integrated into the 303-2 or the hotel phone -2, and it really hides this technology away from the end user. Now, the good point about this is that you look at these ports, you're saying, gosh, these are just all RJ11s. How do I integrate all of these RJ11s into this rat's nest that exists in the closet that exists in the old things? Well, in case that's the point, you got accessories that we offer into society. Now, we don't provide this, but these are these are third-party available. We're actually looking forward to possibly providing these adapters, but we don't have that put in place as of today. But right now, you can go out there and do a third-party search. Much of these two-wire solutions fall into a 66 block. And these 66 blocks is really the rat's nest that you see on all of those two-wire solutions coming into one block. And then each of these blocks are, quite frankly, connected to what I believe is an RJ21 connector that looks like this. And you can buy a cable that looks like this that actually plug right into it, and you can convert that 66 block connector onto all of these different RJ11 connectors, which gives you a quick, easy plug and play that gives you a quick physical transport from going from that two-wire converter switch that I just talked about in the previous slide, going through the building, and then using that connector on the other end to put in your endpoint. That's really it. I mean, I think this is a critical accessory that you may want to take a look at. Now, you may have a one-off or necessarily a small connection. This is not necessary, but if you have a bigger connection where you're connecting well over 12 or above type of connections, you may want to take a look at this to give you quick adaptability so you're not splicing wires and spending too much time doing that. It's not a requirement, but it really is something that you may want to consider to save a lot of time and keeping a cleaner wiring diagram within the wiring block. To make a long story short, that's kind of it in terms of my high-level description of what the two-wire solution is. It really is being able to provide our Ethernet-based type of IP solutions across a very old existing wire that was a two-wire solution. I want to thank you everybody for your time. Now I want to set aside some time with Julie. If you have any questions, feel free to throw your questions on the question box on your GoToMeeting client, and I'll stick around for as long as necessary to answer it. If I can't answer it, then I'll go ahead and take an action item to follow up with you to provide more additional details. With that, I'll bring the pod back over to Julie to take it on from here.
Thank you very much, Tommy. I appreciate that and enjoyed your presentation. And of course, I do have some questions for you. Let's get started with the first one. Yes. It says, how do Fanvil and Linkville ensure product quality and reliability?
Okay. This is great. We have a QA department. I mean, before we go ahead and specify all of these things that work, these things do get tested internally for many of the phones as well. We actually go through testing that we have go through ratings of IP66 and 67 in terms of ruggedness. These things all work as well. With regard to the two-wire solution that we're speaking with here, this has actually been deployed in many of the second developing countries because they're very sensitive in keeping the existing infrastructure. And this is already something that we're shipping into production there, but we're rolling it out into the United States because we don't blast out all of these solutions in one spot. We tend to spot those because we realize that in not only deploying to those regions, but here, we want to make sure that we work out a lot of these bugs initially, especially in the case of rolling out to USA. These things are pretty much, most of these bugs are all caught on in the initial rollouts before it's even introduced now. So as I'm introducing today, these devices have already gone through and had gone through much of the jogging of the trail already, having some field experiences, and quite frankly, we feel it's ready to now introduce to what we consider very picky and quality conscious customers here in the United States, so that it rolls out and many of these things are already working in other regions.
Thank you so much for that, Tommy. Let's go to the next question.
Yep.
Are there any advanced features in Fanvil and Linkville devices that set them apart from competitors?
Yeah, I mean, very often, many of the competitors offer very similar products. I think where we typically stand is that the way all of our products positioned is that we typically offer the same type of product at a particular value price going into it. Many people out there offer solutions. They've been working in there for decades, and we realize as a manufacturer, we can basically come up with something that's really, really equivalent, can accomplish the same level of performance as well as clarity and at a fraction of the cost. Quite honestly, I mean, we're also high end because, as I mentioned on the first slide, not only do we manufacture for ourselves, but we also manufacture for many branded names out there as well. I can't advise who they are, obviously, but I can guarantee many of the people out there in the IP world know what we do, know the particular brands that are out there, and for some of the brands you may have touched, likely you may have encountered a Fanvil product and not even know it. So it's more than just what the brand is. We're case point a manufacturer, and our differentiation is also bringing a lot of the support, such as myself locally in the United States to support really the North American region. We also have an SE, which is a technical support, which provides hands-on tactical support to be able to provide that to the marketplace. And beyond that, we typically double many of the warranties that exist out in the world. Many of the people offer a 1-year warranty. All the products that we offer is really a 2-year warranty, and that starts when you actually get the product from our distribution, and that's where the clock starts. So we're confident enough to be able to offer these products with a 2 years. So if something doesn't meet our specification, we'll go ahead and take care of it. If it doesn't meet spec, obviously, if it gets run over by a truck, we don't cover that. But in general, in terms of everything operating as normal, we will stand behind our product.
Excellent. Thank you so much for that, Tommy. Next question here for you. What are the energy efficiency features of Fanvil and Linkvil devices?
When you say energy efficient, I mean, in general, in terms of IPs, all of these products that we have, especially our endpoints, they tend to go into a standby mode once it's not being used overnight. Outside of that, a lot of the switches that you see, I mean, they're constantly on depending on usage, but I will speak on endpoints. Even reflective on our wireless products for our W611W, when it's not in use, it goes into a standby mode where it sits there and it listens to see whether or not it does. And the fraction and the number of uses that it has is really to an idle. Literally, it's like having a car at idle, just awaiting for something, and it consumes the minimum amount of energy to keep its awake state. But once it's awakened by receiving a call, then everything else comes alive and should be invisible to the end user.
Thank you so much, Tommy. Let's go right into the next question. What upcoming innovations can we expect from Fanvil and Linkvil, specifically with AI? Perhaps AI is already there.
Yeah, AI, I mean, in terms of AI, the AI from an endpoint perspective, let me take a step back and sort of reset expectations. I mean, we are an endpoint manufacturer. It's almost like having the pencil, right? You can go to school and have a pencil or a pen, and you can go ahead and write out your notes and do whatever you can. But in many cases, AI typically exists within the host manufacturers. Fanvil partners with many different switch manufacturers that incorporate AI within their systems, such as, these major switches, these cloud-based PBXs that actually incorporate AI. The real clear thing about those AI is that typically it incorporates voice recognition. So you have to have an endpoint that transmits your voice very clearly so that when you say, oh, I'm traveling from New York to Hawaii, and I need to go on flight A817 on Hawaiian Airlines, for example. That has to come through clearly enough so that the voice that the AI hears, which is typically resident in a server, not necessarily at the endpoint, can recognize your voice so that it can go ahead and execute as the way that AI was designed.
Thank you so much, Tommy. Next question here for you. Let's see if I got this right. What is it? Codecs are supported by the X300 series, and when I say yeah,
I don't know off the top of my head, but I know that from the X303, classically it's the what is it, 711 I think, the classic codec, as well as a G722 as well. So it's the high-end HD codec as well as the G711 codec. And I might believe that many of these things, I have to confirm about this, but many of these also support a dynamic codec at the back end as well to accommodate for low and high end. I don't know whether it's 729 or whether it's a different type of codec, but you can actually look at the codecs that are supported simply by going to our website, looking at the actual 303 and seeing which codec is supported. So at a minimum is G711 as well as G722. But I believe also there's a dynamic codec that's incorporated. I'm kind of stretching myself, so I'll need to confirm that latter spec. But that will also provide the ability to support a dynamic codec in case that will accommodate both low-end and high-end bandwidth capabilities.
Thank you very much, Tommy. Last question here for you. Are PN switches compatible with existing network infrastructure?
The answer is yes. I'll put it this way. On the diagram that you see in front of you now, the PN824, as well as the PN1 has an Ethernet connection on the back end so that you can actually connect the internet switch that you have that's there onto it. But in terms of the connection, like, can you pair a PN1 with a competitive PN switch here? And the answer is no. If you happen to use like one of our endpoint adapters, like if you happen to use a 303 2-wire with it, then what you would need to do then in the 2-wire switch, you would need to pair it with the PN24, 8, or the PN1. You can't necessarily switch brands. There are other competitive brands in the marketplace that bring Ethernet on the 2-wire, but in the case of really functionality in terms of capability, it should be paired. So a PN on the endpoint here or within our endpoint should be paired with another PN gateway. But on the back of the gateway, it can really connect to any particular switch or router that suits the existing IP market today, because that's typically how many companies receive the internet connection throughout the world.
Thank you, Tommy, so much for answering all of those questions for us today. And thank you to everyone attending our webinar. And if anyone has any further questions, like myself and Tommy always say, please feel free to contact your sales rep, email Tommy, or email us at sales@microcomtech.com. And if you wish to view any of the products mentioned and shown today, please make sure to remember this webinar presentation has been recorded and will be uploaded to our Microcom YouTube channel so we can all view it again. Thank you, Tommy, for being with us. We greatly appreciate it. We're all going to get back to the rest of our day and make it a fantastic one. Thank you, guys, everybody.
Thank you very much for your time, and stay safe out there. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Tommy. Bye-bye.